finally that time. I've looked forward to getting this piece in hand for a while now. I received it in the mail about 2 weeks ago, and since then it's absolutely dominated my pocket. Today on Quick Cuts, we're talking about the Giant Mouse Ace Riv, the latest offering from Giant Mouse Knives, which is the brainchild of Jesper Voxnaes and Anso, two prolific designers in the knife game that have been making top-notch designs for years. Welcome to Quick Cuts, let's get into it. What up guys, it's your boy Brent, aka Backpack B, back at it with another episode of Quick Cuts. If you're new here and you like this video, consider slashing that subscribe button. It really helps out, and I love to see you here every week. So let's get into it. This is the Ace Riv. Let's start by going over the spec sheet. Coming in at 3.4 ounces, the Ace Riv has a handle length of 3.375 inches, a handle width of 1 inch, a handle thickness of 0.4 inches, a blade length of 2.44 inches, a blade width of 1.125 inches, and a blade thickness of 0.118 inches, giving the Giant Mouse Ace Riv an overall length of 5.77 inches. It features a frame lock, L-Max steel, brass and titanium scales, a deep carry wire pocket clip, a ball bearing pivot system, a titanium backspacer, flipper tab and thumb hole deployment, and a super slicey flat ground drop point blade. So the Ace Riv is on the smaller side with a blade that comes in at under 3 inches, but this little package boasts some premium materials and a fit and finish that really makes it a stunner. It's time for a closer look with a knife overview. Starting with the show side of the handle, and you can't ignore this beautiful brass scale that I feel adds a ton of character to this piece, and will without a doubt patina nicely over time, which is the reason why I chose brass. Starting over at the bottom left of the handles, we can see a cutout in the scales that reveals the titanium backspaces with integrated lanyard hole. Next to this cutout on either side, you can see two T8 size screws holding this side together. Moving on to the right side of the show handle, here you can see the pivot screw, which is also T8, so T8's all around on this side. Overall, I love the simplicity of the show side handle. It has an understated elegance. Okay, moving on to the spine of the handle, and here we get the first taste of the flipper tab, which has some nice jimping to help grip and deployment. On the other side, you can see the titanium backspacer with a nice and small jimping pattern. The jimping is a lot smaller and finer than knives that I've handled in the past, but I actually prefer it. Okay, let's move on to the lock side of the knife, and here you can see the deep carry wire pocket clip, which I'm a big fan of. It's not completely deep carry, so a bit of the knife will stick out, but that doesn't bother me. Aesthetically, the wire clip complements the sophistication of the design language that's present throughout the knife. Also notice that this side of the knife is titanium. All the hardware on this side is also size T8, so T8 all around, which I love. It's how it should be in my opinion. And finally on this side, you can see the frame lock with steel insert. Alright, let's move on to the centering, and check it out. That blade is right down the middle. Here on the spine of the tang, you can see a bit more of that fine jimping I was talking about from before, and you can also see that this knife has a crown spine, which I think is a nice detail that adds to the comfort of holding this knife. Alright, on to my absolute favorite part, the thwack test, and here we go. And yeah, that's really nice. Really nice. The blade flies to the open position and locks with authority. That thwack is very satisfying, which isn't always the case with knives of this size. One more time for thwack's sake. And yeah, that's great. The detent is dialed in. It doesn't feel too strong or too weak, it's right in the middle, which is great. The knife is running on bearings, so it's extremely smooth. And here the Ace Riv is in its open glory. I think the design of this piece is stellar. It's very in line with the Giant Mouse aesthetic. Let's move on to standout features. The number one standout aspect of the Ace Riv for me is its design, hands down. And this knife carries on the tradition and design ethos of Giant Mouse Knives as a brand. I'm a huge Jesper Voxnaes design fan. In fact, one of my first knives when I was first getting serious about knife collecting was a budget option designed by Voxnaes, the CRKT Polar. Here the Ace Riv is next to my Polar, which you can see has a titanium brass scale on it. I think the Polar is a great budget option if the Riv is out of your price range. But what I'm trying to say is the design language that Jesper and Anso have created throughout their body of work is top notch from both a visual standpoint and a functional and ergonomic standpoint. The Ace Riv's design is no exception, a simple and clean silhouette that is designed to fit the hand perfectly, and it does just that. Other standout features of this design are the wire clip, which I think is beautifully done, and the semi-rounded spine. The subtle jimping throughout the knife feels extremely considered in terms of placement and execution. Like I said before, the jimping is more subtle than a lot of knives I've handled before, but it feels great on this piece.
Alright, moving on to the next standout feature of the Ace Riv, which is its fit and finish. And all I can say is wow. As an overall piece, this knife came extremely dialed in. Giant Mouse Tap Riot is their OEM for this piece, and I think that was a great choice. Riot literally did their thing on the dance floor, so to speak. The Ace Riv came razor sharp out of box, the build quality feels stellar, and the tolerances are exceptional. Like I said before, the detent is perfect, the action is lovely, and the execution of materials is just spot on. The flat grind of this knife is amazing, it's beautifully executed. And I'm just gonna say it, the fit and finish on this knife is perfect. I could not find a single nitpick, which is rare because I'm a picky dude, and I'm still impressed by this knife every time I carry it. Hats off to Riot. The next feature that I thought was standout is the ergonomics. I have a large size hand, and this little knife feels extremely comfortable to hold. The forward finger choil really helps this piece feel good in hand. You can get 4 fingers on the bottom part of the knife comfortably, plus the subtle rounding of the spine of the blade really helps your thumb feel comfortable and at home. In my experience with Voxnaes designs, he seems to excel in the ergonomic department, and it shows on the Ace Riv. On to the final standout feature, which is the grind of the blade, and I think Riot did an amazing job with the flat grind. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love being able to see the striations of the grind in a perfectly parallel formation on the primary bevel, and I also love perpendicular grind patterns on the flat and ricasso area. It's coming in extremely thin behind the edge, making this bad boy a great slicer. Okay, let's move on to my gripes with this knife, which don't really exist, to be honest. I always seem to find nitpicks with knives that I review, but this piece is so good in every aspect that it's hard to complain about anything. The only thing I will say about the Ace Riv is that it's a small knife, so if you're looking for a big folder, this is not going to be the one for you. I think for people who prefer large blades, the Riv will be a good secondary knife option. But I really couldn't find anything else I didn't like about this. It's a really good piece. So we made it to my conclusions, and obviously I love this piece. I think it's a home run. The Ace Riv combines stellar materials, top-notch production from Riot, with a sophisticated design from Voxnaes and Anso. The result is an extremely compelling sub 3-inch folder that checks darn near every box. This piece will be entering my permanent collection, so if you're looking for a great EDC-able folder that's under 3 inches, this one could absolutely be for you, and I highly recommend it.
Thanks so much for joining me today. That's it for me. Backpack be out. Deuces.